To Donington Park, we've got the opening round of the 2025 MSVR Focus Cup Championship coming up for you in what is a bumper grid, the largest ever grid we've had since the introduction of the Focus Cup, and also, for the first time ever, two different classes, because you may well have seen last year that the regular Ford Focus Zetec 2-litre TDCi cars were joined by a development car, and that development car is the ST250 petrol engine car. Well, the team at Focus Cup have been very busy over the winter building new cars for this new class, and therefore they will line up towards the sharp end of the grid, the petrol engine cars. The regular diesel engine cars will be thereafter. We've got 7 of those newly built cars joining the rest of the diesels on the grid for what is a very exciting start to the championship. Of course, the petrol engine cars are quicker. The pole time was 8.5 seconds quicker in the petrol engine car that Lewis Clark will start from pole compared to the leading diesel in qualifying, which was Ali Topley. Let me guide you through the grid then for this first race of the season. It's Lewis Clark, the double former champion, reigning champion, that lines up on pole position, and alongside is Ian Mitchell. Row 2 of the grid is Leo Panayotou and Spencer Fortag, with John Baker, runner-up in the championship last year, lining up alongside Simon Watts, who was 3rd in the championship last year. Then it's Simon Walton as the last of the petrol engine cars before Alistair Topley lines up on pole position in reality in the first of the diesels. Mark McCann and Jamie Good are next up, ahead of Darren Rickaby and Richard Wynne, who lines out the top 12. Then next up, it's the number 44 car of Ian Howard. Alongside him is Simon Langford, with Richard Hall and Adam Winter lining up 15th and 16th respectively on the grid. Ian Graham is there in 22nd position of those cars in reality when you take into account the gap on the grid, and Andrew Freeman is next up, with Craig Ballantyne and Gary Mitchell lining up on row number 10. Abby Walton in the newly liveried purple and green car for this year has Tim Harrington for company, and as we head down to the final few rows of the grid, it's Jason Bailey and Matt Croft ahead of Cameron Ferrado McKenzie, or Cameron FM, and Sarah Hall. And at the back of the grid, had problems in qualifying. The car has had a few small little issues, but hopefully they're all sorted now. Katrina Gray, Cat Gray, lines up at the tail end of the field. Now, points are allocated already for qualifying. You get 30 points for a race win in this, but you also get 30 points if you qualify on pole position. So Lewis Clark and Ali Topley in their respective classes already have bagged 30 points. The way the points work, exactly the same for qualifying as the race. So 30 for a win or pole position, 26 if you're second in the race or qualify second quickest, 23rd, 21, 20, 19, and so on. It diminishes from there. Lap, if you set it in your respective class, is 5 additional championship points. So 2 different classes. The ST250s, which are the first 7 cars on the grid, they produce about 300 brake horsepower, about 365 pounds-feet of torque, 6-speed manual gearbox in those. The Class 2 cars are the ones we're used to in this championship over the previous years, the Zetec S 2-litre TDCi. They produce around about 180 brake horsepower and have 310 pounds-feet of torque, but say they are a new introduction for 2025, whereas the diesel engine cars have been there since the very beginning of the Focus Cup, which had its first year, unbelievably, 2019, quite some time ago now. So it's a good evolution in this championship, and I know the Focus Cup team are already building new cars again to try and bolster the ST250 class, which seems to have taken off beautifully well. The top 4 in the championship last year have all moved up to the new class for this year. So the likes of Lewis Clark, the likes of John Baker, the likes of Simon Watts, the likes of Ian Mitchell are all there, having moved and graduated in from the diesels up to the petrol engine cars. This is a 15-minute race. It is the first of 2 that we've got for you, live streamed today. The second race is going to take place just before 4 o'clock, so maybe subject to timetable, 10 to 4, 5 to 4, something like that this afternoon. So it's the blue, the light blue and the purple car of the double champion, the reigning champion Lewis Clark, that lines upon pole position. Out of 6 events at Donington Park last year, Lewis Clark won 6 of them. He is a 6-time winner in 2024 here at Donington Park. He set the pace in qualifying. Let's see what he might be able to do. So there is Cameron Ferrado McKenzie at the tail end of the field. Sarah Hall and Katrina Gray just coming up into their position. They're going to struggle to see the lights from there. So big is the grid. They're all round the corner at Goddard's, which is the final corner. So quite how the drivers right the way back there see the lights, I'm not entirely sure. But we're about to get the 2025 Focus Cup racing season underway. Red lights on the gantry. The lights go out now and the cars start to charge their way up towards Redgate Corner. Someone's a little bit slow away further back down through the the order, but it's certainly a good start from Lewis Clark, who is the reigning champion. He's going to lead the field as they head in towards the braking area for Redgate Corner for the first time. Already the petrol engine cars starting to break away from the diesels, as you would expect based on the performance differences between the pair of them, but hopefully everybody is safely through the first corner, which they are. And therefore they start to charge their way along through Hollywood and down in towards the Craner Curves and the old hairpin for the first time. It's Lewis Clark that leads the way. It is Ian Mitchell who is there in second position, and third place is Leo Paniotto there in third place. His father Chris Paniotto raced minis for a good number of years. Leo graduated out of junior saloons and then went on to race minis as well. Quick young man is Leo Paniotto as he starts to propel the third place car round through McLean's for the first time and then up into the blind entry to Coppice Corner. The top three having broken away from the car that sits there in fourth place, and that looks as though it's John Baker that's there in fourth place. But you can see just already that top three just breaking away from John Baker in fourth, and it's Spencer Fortag, former Caterham racer, who's there in fifth place. Simon Watson, Simon Walton, I think, wrap up the top seven cars, which will be all of the ST250s, and then we'll try and pick up on who the leading diesel is at the end of this lap. So down in towards the downhill braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. Very easy to outbrake yourself because you're heading downhill into a big stopping area to take the right-hand hairpin, and from there you sort of head back up the hill and in towards Goddard's. Tricky little corner is Goddard's because you are off camber midway through the corner. So in towards the braking area, we saw Spencer Fortag just run a little bit wide as he came out of the Melbourne hairpin, but no such troubles for the top three. And now Lewis Clark, the race leader, is just starting to edge away a little bit from Ian Mitchell, who was runner-up in the championship back in 2023, finished fourth in it in 2024. The diesel crowd all start to bunch up as they come in towards Goddard's. The field includes several new novice drivers for this year, none in the S250s. The leading qualifier of the novices, Jamie Good, I think, who qualified third of the diesels. And as the diesels come over the start-finish line, it's Ali Topley that leads the way in the number 41 car. From Jamie Good, then it's Mark McCann. And then after that, I think it's Simon Langford who's had a good start and has worked his way up to, something like third in the class, I think that will be for him. So through Hollywood and back down through the Craner Curves, yet again they will go. That looks like Andrew Freeman is feeling the pinch a little bit. He's got Ian Graham right behind him. Ian Graham equally as much then has got the black and the Dayglow car, which is nipping at his heels, which will be Craig Ballantyne. But it looks as though everybody completed the first lap without any strife or troubles. So through McLean's Corner, 12 minutes to go. And there is Ian Mitchell. And has Ian Mitchell lost a place there? Because I couldn't see Leo Paniotto behind him. So I think that might be a change for second and third overall. So 7 in the petrol class. I think it's 20 in the diesel class. In towards the braking. Yeah, Leo Paniotto is not there. No, he is right behind him. Yep, so it is still as they were. Lewis Clark from Ian Mitchell, then Leo Paniotto, who is trying everything to see whether he can prise the door open a little bit on Ian Mitchell. Ian Mitchell has been part of this Focus Cup for a couple of seasons now. John Baker, who's been in it for a good period of time, fourth in the championship in 2022. He finished fourth in the championship in 2023. He sits there in fourth place in this race, but he was runner-up last year. And the top 5 now have just broken away. Simon Watts is there in 6th place, and the man behind the championship, Simon Walton, wraps up the top 7 at this stage. 8th place will be Ali Topley, 9th will be Jamie Good, and completing the top 10 at this stage will be Mark McCann. There's Sarah Hall, who does a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of the championship and its promotion. Good little fight going on here as well, just coming over the start-finish line. That's Darren Rickaby, who has got Simon Langford in the 474 right behind him. Then just off those is Richard Wynne. We've still also got Andrew Freeman feeling the pressure from the number 27 car of Ian Graham, who was 5th in the championship last year. He's the highest placed driver who was in the diesel class last year that's remained in the diesel class for this year. So this is the battle for something like 16th, 17th, 18th and 19th, just heading down in towards the old hairpin. All of the cars running to identical specification, all on a Nankang tyre as well. It's one of the very, very affordable ways to go motor racing is the Focus Cup, so I do encourage you to go and have a look at their website, because they do offer, if you're new to racing and a novice, they do offer some special deals on occasion, so well worth, if you're contemplating joining the grid, having a word with the Focus Cup team and Simon Walton. So up towards Coppice they'll go. See the tail end of the car just starting to move around a little bit, back to the ST250s, and still as they were. John Baker still under pressure from Spencer Fortag, and as they come over the start-finish line, it's now Leo Paniotto who's up into second place. Ian Mitchell has dropped down into third place, so in his debut in the Focus Cup, Leo Paniotto up into second position. Ian Mitchell down to third. John Baker sitting there in fourth place, but under pressure from the Power Max back car in the hands of Spencer Fortag. And despite the overtake, Leo Paniotto also setting the fastest lap of the race that time through, 1 minute 47.676. That potentially nets him an extra 5 championship points if he can hang on to it for the remaining 9 minutes or so. Through the old hairpin, you just see John Baker's car just weaving around a little bit under braking there. Just managed to get the car where he needed it to be eventually, but that has dropped him a little bit further away from the number 81 Dereza backed machine of Ian Mitchell, and it's dropped him furthermore into the clutches of Spencer Fortag. And Spencer here is going to try and prise the door open heading up towards Coppice. So John Baker tries to close it. Spencer Fortag is still trying to prise it open. Door mirror to door mirror. Fair, hard, close racing from both of them, and Spencer Fortag has made it through. Up into fourth place goes Fortag. John Baker down into fifth position. And of course, even for all of those drivers that have got plenty of Focus Cup racing experience, this is a new car to everybody, and therefore it will work and handle very differently to the older car. The power delivery, of course, is very different. A petrol engine car, you'll rev it a bit more, whereas in the diesel, you'll use the torque. Further down through the order, Jason Bailey has got his hands full. That's Kat Gray, who was scheduled to be driving the Monster Energy car, so they've clearly swapped her car over to the JCB machine. That's the one good thing about the Focus Cup, they do bring spare cars, and Kat had a small problem with hers in qualifying, so spare cars are available. She hops into that instead. So we're almost at the halfway point of this race. Over the start-finish line, 4 laps completed. Lewis Clark has led every lap so far. Spencer Fortag having his newly acquired fourth place put under pressure from John Baker, who's keen to get it back if he can, but no such opportunities. They head in towards Redgate Corner that time through, so they'll start to charge their way back downhill through the Craner curves. So through the left-hand element of the Craner curves, then get the car all the way over to the left-hand side and take the old hairpin. Might be called a hairpin, but it's a very, very quick corner, the old hairpin, and so important to get cleanly off it as well, so you carry the momentum all the way past Starkey's Bridge, round through the left-hand flick at Schwantz curve where they're heading now, and then in towards the braking area for McLean's Corner. So Spencer Fortag, you could just see he's driving very aggressively, and is that a problem for Ian Mitchell? Possibly. Let's just have a quick look at Ian Mitchell, who again does lots of work behind the scenes in terms of the championship, himself and his brother Gary. Was that a problem for him? Because he certainly stayed out of the way of both Spencer Fortag and of John Baker, who charged their way through rather effortlessly in towards the braking area for the S's. And Brady one car still looking as though it's going well, accelerating its way onto the Melbourne Loop. And as for the leading diesel car, well, that's still going the way of Alistair Topley, who's there in the number 41 car running in 8th position, and he's opened up now nearly a 2 3/4 second gap between himself and the number 30 car, which is Jamie Good, who did do a couple of races with us last year. So there is Alistair Topley over the start-finish line. Simon Walton weaving around, I think, in the petrol engine car, has just dropped that little bit further back, has he? Or no, that's, by the look of things, Lewis Clark starting to get amongst the traffic already, possibly. It is, yeah, already. We're seeing the ST250s starting to catch the TDCI engine machines. So they were, based on qualifying, 8.5 seconds a lap quicker, which was roughly when the start of the development of the petrol engine class, arranged by Simon Walton, who drives that number 3 car, that was roughly at the time, I think he said to me this time last year, that was where they wanted them to be, the petrol engine cars. A reasonable performance difference between the two classes. Now this is a good little fight that's going on. This is the 474 car of Simon Langford, who's got cars queuing up behind him. Ian Howard is the first of those. Richard Wynne is the second of those. And then just off those two. Richard Wynne, it should be, I think, 44. Ian Howard has gained a place, actually. The car that's behind is Richard Hall. So over the start-finish line they'll come. This is going to be for something like 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th in the diesel category at this stage. So the quartet turning their way through Redgate Corner. Ian Howard up a place that time through. Richard Wynne down a place. Sarah Hall having a good run as well. And she's had a very good run. In fact, no, 99, that'll be Richard Hall, won't it? Yep, Richard Hall, who's having a good run. So down through Craner Curves, through the old hairpin. Everybody pretty much apexing beautifully. Maybe Richard Hall just a couple of feet away from the apex in the Liqui Moly car, but still manages to carry the momentum all the way out and up towards not quite the highest part of the circuit. It's uphill all the way from the old hairpin to McLean's Corner, then it flattens out a bit, and then there's just a crest as you come in towards Coppice Corner, which is a tricky corner really. You can't quite see the apex when you get to it, so you commit to the apex, pick up that first apex that you see there, and then the car roughly will be about in the middle of the track when you get to the second apex, and then let the car run all the way out towards the curb line and then move back from the left of the circuit slowly to the right of the circuit, because you've then got the left and the right flicks at the S's, which is coming up now. So onto the brakes, down a gear I would have thought, pitch the car in towards the S's, pick up as much of the curb as you possibly can and really try and propel the car up what is a very slight incline for the first part of the Melbourne Loop, and then it descends in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. Now we're starting to get some penalties coming in now by the look of things. I think Leo Paniotto has picked up a 5-second penalty for track limits. He's running in second place and at the moment is only 3.2 seconds ahead of Spencer Fortag, and also Simon Langford, number 474, has picked up a time penalty as well. Our diesel class leader, Alistair Topley, still pressing on. He has slightly increased his lead advantage. It was 2.7 seconds. It's now gone out to 2.8 seconds between himself and Jamie Good's car, with 2 3/4 minutes of the race still remaining. He heads through the old hairpin for what will be the 7th time of asking already, and you can see there's spare tarmac behind him. In the distance is Jamie Good, but he's far enough behind so Alistair Topley can focus entirely on what's going on ahead of him and not have to look in his mirrors. He'll just keep every now and again quick glance in the mirrors just to check what the gap is doing. Now Simon Watts at the wheel of the number 23 car is starting to have some of the diesels that he's having to overtake. Simon Walton the same, looking to sneak his way through and up the inside of Matt Croft's car, which he's able to do as he heads in towards Goddard's Corner. So the ST250 still working their way through and past the Class 2 machines. I think the aspiration will be is that as more and more ST250s are built by the Focus Cup team, because you don't build the car yourself, you have them all arranged, transported to the circuit, all the maintenance and all of the costs are a set fee plus insurance or any damage, but it's a set fee that you pay, and all of the championship is controlled by Focus Cup, so you hire the car for the weekend in reality. And I think the aspiration will be to, as they build more ST250s, potentially have 2 entirely separate grids if they've got the numbers. That would be fantastic to see. So up towards McLean's Corner, Simon Watts is running in 6th position. So Simon has been in the championship for a good number of years. I think 2020 we certainly saw him in. I'm not sure if he was in the original inaugural year in 2019. Simon Watts has been a fundamental part of this championship for a good number of years. Back to the diesel engine class, and 12th heads over the start-finish line, which is number 474 car that's carrying that 5-second penalty, Simon Langford. And just look at the queue that's behind him. So we add 5 seconds to where he is on circuit, and he's going to lose 1, 2, 3, 4 places potentially on corrected time. So Simon Langford could really do with just gapping those cars behind him a little bit more, but with only 30 seconds to go, he hasn't got much time to do it. So he might be running 12th on the road and 5th in the class, but he's going to tumble down through the order, because our race leader and the reigning champion, and the only, I think, double champion we've ever had in Focus Cup, if memory serves me correctly, Lewis Clark, is going to do what Lewis Clark did last year. which was win the opening round at Donington Park. In fact, he won the opening 3 rounds at Donington Park, having qualified on pole and set fastest lap in each race as well. Well, at the moment, he's not on for fastest lap in this one. The extra 5 championship points are going the way of the car that's in second place, which is Leo Panayiotou. But for Lewis Clark, he'll be more than happy that he scoops 30 points for qualifying on pole position and potentially an extra 30 points here for the first win of the season. It was a mega start to the 2024 season for Lewis Clark as well, because he won the opening 6 races, 3 at Donington Park, 3 at Brands Hatch, and opening 6 races, 2 at Donington Park, 2 at Brands Hatch and 2 at Alton Park, having qualified on pole position in every one of those as well, so he was on pretty much maximum points. Alistair Topley, the diesel class leader, he's about to head on to his final lap of the race. So over the start-finish line comes the 8th place car. And again, he's got good daylight still between himself and Jamie Goods, that he doesn't need to worry. So just another 2.5 miles for Alistair Topley to go for him to pick up maximum championship points. Squabble's still going on though further down through the order in the Class 2 cars. Richard Wynne under pressure from Richard Hall. Having lost a place, I think, on that lap is Ian Graham, with the number 27 car having dropped behind Richard Hall. That might have been on the lap prior, but still that quintet are all together, aren't they, coming over the start-finish line? Simon Langford at the front of it. But for Lewis Clark, he's about to come up to take the first checkered flag of the season in the Focus Cup. It's a win in the new class. First ever race winner in the ST250 class, Class 1 for Lewis Clark. He'll be absolutely delighted with that one. Hand out of the window and waving away already. Leo Panayiotou comes through to finish in second place in the class, but on corrected times, is he going to hang on to it would be the question. I think he does, yes, because Spencer Fortag was more than 5 seconds behind him. So Spencer Fortag comes through to finish in third place. John Baker's in fourth. Ian Mitchell in fifth. Here comes Simon Watts over the start-finish line to finish in sixth place. The grey car with the orange flashes will be Simon Walton, who finishes in seventh place, just ahead of his daughter, Abby Walton, in the diesel class, who he lapped, who comes through to finish further down through the order. And now we just need to await for the front runners in the diesel class to come through, because Alistair Topley is about to sneak his way through and place a lap on Sarah Hall. So the Powermax car goes through and past the Swan Flight machine, and Alistair Topley looks on course in the Powermax car to convert pole position in the diesel class, Class 2, to a first race win for him as he comes into the braking area for Goddard's corner, and wait the arrival of him in the background of the shot. And as he turns his way through now, Alistair Topley is going to finish in 8th place, but more importantly, as far as he's concerned, that is good championship points in the early stages in Class 2. He's followed over the line in Class 2 by Jamie Good, who comes through to finish in the K&N car, the number 30 car, second in the class, and third in the class should be number 64, Mark McCann, but there's still squabbles to be resolved as well in towards the braking area for Goddard's on the final lap. Richard Wynne under pressure from Ian Graham, who is under pressure from the next car behind, which will be Richard Hall as well, and they're all tucked up right behind Simon Langford, who, remember, 474 is carrying a penalty, so that is going to drop Simon Langford down into something like 16th position, I think, on corrected time. So he lost probably another 3 or 4 places there because of the 5-second penalty he picked up, as did Leo Panayiotou, because of transgressing the circuit limits throughout that race. So, blustery day here at Donington Park. It feels spring-like when you're in the sunshine, but when you're in the shade, crumbs, it's rather cold to say the least. But that's our opening round of the Focus Cup Championship. Remember, we do have another race coming up for you later on, but let's hopefully just confirm the results for you. Lewis Clark claims the win from Leo Panayiotou in second position. Spencer Fortag was there in third, out of John Baker in fourth. Ian Mitchell, Simon Watts and Simon Walton wrap up the top 7, and the petrol class in 8th place. Alistair Topley, Ali Topley, claims the diesel class and the win in that, ahead of Jamie Good, and Mark McCann completes the top 10. Then as we head outside of the top 10, in 11th place, it should be Darren Rickaby that finishes in 11th place, and completing the top 12 was the number 44 car, which was Ian Howard. Then it was Richard Wynne, who was in 13th place, ahead of Ian Graham in 14th place. Richard Hall was next up. Simon Langford dropped to 16th on corrected times in the end because he had a 5-second penalty. Adam Winter ahead of Andrew Freeman. Then it was Craig Ballantyne and Cameron Ferrado McKenzie who completed the top 20. Then in 21st position, as we start to head towards the tail end of the field. In 21st place was the number 37 car, which was Gary Mitchell, ahead of Abby Walton, and then Matt Croft finished in 23rd position. 24th place was Tim Harrington. Kat Gray finished in 25th place ahead of Sarah Hall, and the last of the finishers was Jason Bailey, a novice to the championship, one of a few who at least completed his first race and will get a signature on his licence. So that's it for Focus Cup Championship for the moment. Please, please, please come back and join us for race 2 later on today. That's scheduled to be on circuit around about 5 to 4. So I suggest you set your alarms for probably about 1:45 and join us for race 2. From everybody else here at Donington Park, in the meantime, thanks for joining us. Goodbye. We'll see you later.